Greetings and welcome back to Switch to Linux. We are here with another supporters stream, and we're going to go ahead and jump on over. And I unmuted people this week, and I actually did the banner. But we were late because this was completely YouTube's fault this time. Like yesterday, hey, that was my computer. OBS crashed. Can't help that. But this one, it was YouTube. It's like, hey, JavaScript sucks. So that's kind of what we saw going on. But anyway, how's everybody doing today?
I brought my list.
Nice.
That's a running joke now.
It's the list.
I also have a list in the GNU text edit app right here. So.
Nice. I have a list open up in LibreOffice. We all got lists, guys. We're all on lists. It's my little black book with my poems in.
My poems.
How's it going, Mark?
I'm feeling motivated and powerless all at the same time.
All right. Yeah, well, you sound like you're on the other end of the room now. So say hi when you get back closer again. All right.
Good. I didn't have
there
a
you are.
mic in my hand. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Fod says, hello. No one said first. I know. I'm telling you, right, Joseph? Greetings. Could MX Linux KDE Edition actually be the best KDE distro ever? I don't know. I'll have to look at it. Hello. Does anyone know how? I'm not sure what Life Sucks was trying to get to there, but you know it's satire that you're reading from me. Okay. It's satire. Hello, Moonbase Alpha Grays. Greetings and take me to your leaders. Please get me out of here. All right, Tech Haberdashy's over there monitoring the chat on the Discord server, so thank you for that. Vince sent me a video on putting the Discord stuff into YouTube feeds as well. I'll poke around and look into that as I can, but we'll see what happens. Apparently, since Plasma 519 is blamed for video lagging issues, not a problem in 518. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Should have stopped at YouTube being stupid. Yes, I know. But you know, every now and again, I'm not.
Tom, you have to be patient. Wait for YouTube to queue up to steal your data.
Peabody says, turn my mic down a little bit. Is my mic really that loud? I should be synced to everybody else's. I'm not even redlining. I think
it's echoey around the room.
I'm actually listening to the live stream as well as the Google Hangout, and it doesn't sound bad to me.
Yeah, okay.
It'll work.
My monitoring looks fine. I don't know. Well, see if anybody else says anything there. My settings are pretty well set, and we test them before the show, so we look pretty good. But we'll see what happens. Let's see. Sudo reboot. Greetings. Ron, how's it going there? You have a lisp. All right. Hello, STL panel and chat. Hopes all is good with everyone. All right. Now, here is the fun question. Do we shoot the breeze for a few minutes and wait to see if Techlore jumps on schedule, which would be about 9 minutes from now, or should we go ahead and get going? Because I actually, the video we're going to be looking at today, if you did not read the description, please go down and read the description. There is a YouTube link in there. And that is, Techlore did a great job. He took the 6.5 hour thing and he condensed it down to 10 or 15 minutes or so of just the privacy stuff. So just for background, this is a 5.5 hour hearing on antitrust with the big companies. But there was a lot crossover with privacy, and that's where we're going to be looking at here. And so I actually was watching the video this morning, and I'm like, hey, Techlore, this is exactly what we need. And he graciously granted us permission to pretty much play his video and comment on it in parts, because basically all he did is he took the 6.5 hour, condensed it down to the privacy focused stuff, and that's kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about. So he is in a meeting, but he said he is going to jump in as soon as his meeting is over, and so he has the link, I believe, and so he should jump in when time is right for him. So if you guys have not seen Techlore's channel, Techlore's channel is awesome, particularly if you're looking for information about VPNs. They actually test all of the different VPNs, actually buy them, actually put them on every piece of hardware you can imagine, and actually test them with a predictable rubric. And he does some excellent privacy courses with the incognito privacy course as well. So those are all cool things to look into. All right, so look at the description for the video and just sub to his channel if you have not already. Let's see, Anna Rita, greetings, just finished eating and the dishes are done. All right, very good. I'm going through this slight withdrawal situation. I've actually I'm only eating like one dessert a day now instead of like 5 or 6, and it's causing me to think a little bit weird. So I don't know if I'm go off the rails. Somebody.
I don't get no
losing your
dessert
sugar
other than
intake.
other than a piece of chocolate.
I made these really boss cream-filled cupcakes, and my friend's like, dude, how do you still have these? Because we made them when he was over like 2 weeks ago, and I still have like 4 or 5 of them left. I'm like, the key is you freeze them, and because it takes like 4 hours for one to thaw out to the point you can eat it. So it's in the morning, I take one out, put a little container, let it thaw for 4 hours, and I have it with lunch. So, but I'll tell you, man, cream-filled cupcakes are the stuff. Anyway. All right. Hello, Shadow Sly. Greetings, Peabody. Anyone know if Kubuntu 2004 Plasma issue on NVIDIA have been fixed? I don't know. Anybody have any notice about that?
I am not the person to ask about anything KDE or Plasma related because it is not my jam.
It isn't mine either.
Jam? What are you running?
Word centers.
Yeah. All right.
We're sinners.
We're sinners? I don't know. What are you running, Tech?
KDE.
What am I running?
Yeah.
I am running OpenSUSE, and it's this. They give you a few different desktop environments, and one says classic SLE as SUSE Enterprise Linux. So it's this kind of GNOME 3 Mate halfway kind of desktop environment. It's pretty much GNOME 3, but it's just got some tweaks to it.
Gotcha. Very good. All right. Emberg33 is new to the community. Welcome to the community. We are a nice, family-friendly community over here. So, and you're on Linux Mint. Very good. So am I. Awesome. All right. Should we go ahead and dive on into the big tech hearings? Let's go ahead and do that, shall we? So, the video here is subcategorized out into groups, and so we have Google portions, and this is welcome to 2020, guys. There are actually a few areas that I am actually agreeing with the tech guys. Like Facebook. I have to agree with Mark Zuckerberg on part of what he says here. Mostly, though, because the politicians are so stupid that they just have no earthly idea what in the world they're talking about.
Oh, wow.
So,
I was gonna there's something in there that I actually disagree strongly with one of the politicians, and she was talking to Zuckerberg, and I was like, I'm about to be the guy who defends. I wonder if it's the same thing.
Is it the Facebook 2 section?
Yes.
Yeah, we might be on the same side.
Ooh,
all right, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting.
Right.
And I hope Techlore's on by the time we get to that one, because I want to hear his take on it, because he might have researched this a little bit more than I did, but I'm pretty sure I have this right. How's my lighting, by the way? I realized I did not turn on my main light system. Is my lighting good?
You're well lit up, dude.
I'm well lit. All right, I'm lit.
I have my mind and my eyeballs in, so I'm ready to go.
All right. Let's go ahead and dive on in. So we're gonna go ahead and start this, and we're gonna watch Google One clips. This it looks like it's just under a minute. Are we ready for Google One clip, guys?
Roll them.
Always.
All right, let's go and roll them.
Mr. Bachai, did Google ever use its surveillance over web traffic to identify competitive threats?
Congressman, just like other businesses, we try to understand trends from data which we can see, and we use it to improve our products for our users. But we are really focused on improving our products, and that's how search
I appreciate
works.
that, Mr. Bachai. Google's own documents and numerous interviews with companies affected by this conduct show that Google did just that, which is very disturbing and very anti-competitive. In addition to stealing content, Google also began to privilege its own sites.
No sound.
Investigative report.
Are we getting no sound? We should have sound.
Not from your video.
It should. Hold on a second. Nobody say anything. Let me check the audio real quick.
Published just yesterday.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time reading lips.
It should be good. I'm getting sound. I'm getting sound indicators.
Oh, you know what? I turned off the volume for the.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and play again. I'm gonna back it up a few seconds.
No, I'm sure everybody that's watching heard it. I had my sound for the browser turned off because I'm listening through you.
Okay. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back it up and restart.
Conduct show that Google did just that, which is very disturbing and very anti-competitive. In addition to stealing content, Google also began to privilege its own sites. An investigative report published just yesterday found that 63% of web searches that start on Google also end somewhere on Google's own websites. And I'm
All right.
glad you mentioned privacy.
Okay, I think that starts Google too. All right, so premise number one. Now, he had two factors in here. Maybe this could have been split into two sections, but number one is Google utilizing its services in order to bring in to is Google utilizing its services in order to gain a competitive advantage by seeing what other services are doing? We actually covered that in the weekly news roundup last week. So. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Recently, we covered that. So that's going on. The second thing he said is that most Google searches end on a Google product. And that's...
Yeah, I remember that from the video because I watched it twice.
Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of it's kind of really extraordinary how it does a complete boomerang right back to Google. It's like they throw that boomerang out there, it rips off everybody can, and it comes back home.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I want to throw out as well is this is something that happened not long ago. We covered this on the news as well. There was a change in how Google was ranking search engines that basically turned into the more you pay, the higher your rank is going to be. In other words, pay to rank on Google, which is kind of what they've sort of been doing anyway, but that's something that they're talking about doing right now. Other thoughts on Google Part 1?
I think it's. I understand as a capitalist, you've got to feed into the system, and they've got to get paid to be able to cater to you and your business. But with the ranked search engines, I hate regulation. I hate it, but there's got to be something done about that, because it seems like every time you go and search for a reputable business, there might be a business on the second page. Nobody looks at the second page. And unless you have a lot of money, you're not relevant in Google search.
Correct. And on mobile, it's the first 5 listings. You got to be on the first 5 on mobile, usually. So, yeah, that's good. Techlore, how's it going? I see you're having dinner or something, but that's all right.
Tech buddy, how are you?
How's everyone doing? Can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
We just started. So we just started. We're just doing commentary on Google Part 1. So if there's anything you add in. So usually the way I do these is just so that everyone's not talking to everybody is I like to kind of go in a row. So you're like number 2. So I'll do Dan, then Henry, then Mark, then Tech. Just so that everyone's not talking to everybody. So go ahead and give us your thoughts on Google Part 1. Or any other general comments you have on this hearings at all. I know you watched all of it. I'm an hour and 15 minutes into it now. So I'm going to take it apart in parts. I'm going to finish it by the weekend. That's my goal. And I'm just laughing hysterically at how stupid it's like a bunch of monkeys flinging poo at other monkeys who can fling the poo back.
Well, I'll say because I watched the Cambridge Analytica live. I ditched all my classes that day. I got my snacks, and I just watched.
Former college professor.
I went into that expecting Zuckerberg to get nailed, and he just didn't. He got off every question. They let him pretty much dodge every question, and I was expecting the same thing this time around. And this time was very different. This time, it still wasn't perfect, right? They still dodged a lot of questions. There were still a lot of questions that I felt were inexperienced. They didn't really understand the technology, but comparing this to Cambridge Analytica, this was a lot more serious. I think they were sworn under oath, which I don't believe Zuckerberg was during the Cambridge Analytica testifying. I could be wrong on that. And just seeing these CEOs actually get nailed was awesome. And that's why I highly recommend watching the whole 6 hours, because the short clip, it's great for the privacy and surveillance side of things, but they got nailed for so many other scummy things they've been doing over the years. So that's my opening thoughts.
And watching it, like, I'm not confident a lot's going to change here, but what I am confident what could happen is more and more people will open up and see the dangers of these tech companies.
Fully agreed. Nothing's going to happen, but it's the publicity that counts at this point.
Absolutely. Mark, did you have anything else to add?
No, I just think I'm glad that they were held accountable, but I'm sorry. I'm just not optimistic about. I don't know that anything's going to come from it ever because of the state of our government, and until the people rise up and vote every last one of them out of office.
Absolutely.
And that could be just what these hearings are about, is people in the hearing committee that need to get reelected.
That's a distinct possibility. It's like, re-elect us. We think we know what we're doing. I just think we need to implement term limits across every position in government.
Tom.
Big term limits, because these people are clueless.
And the majority of people I talk to agree with that, the term limits thing. I feel like most Americans, this is the thing, and I hate to speak as president here for 2024, most Americans have the same common issues of their fellow neighbor. And I don't know why I said that the way I did. But if we can learn to work together on the things that we have common ground on, people want to be able to provide for their family, provide for their kids, take their kids to a school that's going to help them learn better, that they're going to enjoy learning. They want options with schools because the public school system has went down the tubes. Things like this are things that most everybody can agree on. It's a shame that we're so divided that we can't see the forest from the trees and work together on some things.
Tech, what's up?
I didn't have much to think about Google Part 1. I mean, I don't think I actually had any thoughts on anything until Google number 3.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty much what y'all are saying. I mean, this is just the politicians getting up there and clowning and going, "Oh, look, no, we care about you, the end user. Y'all should the average man, as it were, against the mighty evil tech giants. Please, reelect us because we're looking out for your interests." So that's all this is. This is just political point scoring. There's nothing substantial is going to come out of it.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and look at Google Part 2. We're not going to go through every clip, and we just have to decide as a group which clips to skip. I do want to talk about Doubleclick ads. That's Google number 3. So I think I have a little bit longer notes on that. But I think Google number 2 is important for nearly everybody to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and Google number 2.
Because I would be remiss if I didn't deal with this issue because it is so relevant. And I think generally speaking, outside of the political issues and the bias assault with all of this, and this is for essentially all 4 of our witnesses, I think one of our bigger concerns when we talk about data and value, and that data having value and privacy, which is where people really get concerned with how the digital age is moving forward. And there are news reports that law enforcement has made increasing use of what are called geofence warrants. And these geofence warrants allow authorities to compel technology companies to disclose location records for any device in a certain area at a particular time. Court filings suggest that Google received a 1,500% increase in geofence requests from 2017 to 2018, and a 500% increase from 2018 till 2019. And so the Fourth Amendment requires probable cause.
Okay, we're going to pause there for now. Basically, the geofence warrants, these are the ones where somebody robs a bank and we just don't know who it is. So let's go to Google and request every phone that was in the vicinity of the bank for any length of time. And then they can go in and they can go back through and basically have a list of suspects and work backwards. Now, this is coming from the fact that many Google phones are tracking information. Even if you say, hey, don't track my location, many of them are. FYI, information just came out that Google said, oh yeah, we're tracking your location with your contact tracing apps. So all these contact tracing apps, they want everybody to put on your phones so that we can, save the whole world. All of these are doing the same exact thing, tracking and storing location data inside of your systems. So now police have a wider net to cast when we're talking about these types of things. So that's what's up with the geofencing warrants. Dan, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
I don't have a Google phone, so I'm glad I'm not being tracked by them.
However, if you have Google apps on your iPhone, you are possibly
I do not, as far as I know.
All right. As far as you know. All right.
As far as I know, they were all purchased from the Google App Store or so on.
Apple App Store?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Apple Store.
Yeah.
But,
it depends, though, on if the app developers have Google code in them.
I have got on Discord late at night with some other friends, and they've actually went and they were actually able to go and log into Google into their accounts, and it showed all the places they had been within a week.
Yep. Fun stuff.
They don't even have the gall to take it down or make it private.
Mitchell
they
says
show it right back at you. You are here, 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 and here, and here.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, Jeff, man, you like really got around that week. There's like 17 people in 17 different places.
Yeah. Mitchell says, when I rob banks, I leave my phone at home. Easy. That's the thing. Yeah.
But one thing that does irritate me, my little icon symbol that goes by my name, that's the blue circle with the D in it. Mm-hmm. If I actually sent a text message to one of my cousins that do have Google phones, that little blue circle shows right up next to my text message on their phones.
And
did I blow a gasket over that?
That might be an indication that, yes, they are potentially still collecting something, but I don't know. Techlore, what's your thoughts on geofence warrants and related?
I was thoroughly amazed they actually brought this up. And you're going to hear, so I kind of disagree that this was just people pleasing, because I think people pleasing is what happened with Cambridge Analytica. They actually said and had evidence for things they didn't need to bring up to really nail these companies down. They really went harder than they could have. And I felt, I felt that it was actually very political. I feel like there was a lot of politics behind why they actually attacked these companies. But the geofencing, they did not need to bring this up whatsoever. I was thoroughly amazed they brought this up. It's a very unknown issue that people don't know about. If most people knew that there could be pretty much a warrantless capability of getting anybody's location in the United States, which is surveillance within its own citizens from law enforcement, I think people would be throwing their hands up in the air if they really knew this publicly. So the fact that this was on a public live stream from a congressman was just huge. So I do think I'm just amazed it was brought up. So I'm just grateful that we can even have this discussion in the first place. That's kind of where I stand on it, which is kind of a simple place to stand, but I think it's a very valid one as well, that most of us should be grateful it was even talked about.
Well, the thing is if you have the person's Google login ID, that's all you need is to log in with their ID, and you can look at their complete phone history and where it's been.
Yep. Yeah. Fortunately, Google accounts are fairly secure, and so that's at least a plus. Mark, what's your thoughts on geofencing warrants and stuff?
I'd have to read a little bit more into that, what the geofencing is designed to do, but I think the tracking people everywhere they go is just creepy and totally unnecessary, and I understand why.
But it's for a better user experience. Come on.
Well, they want to market to people, and they want you to leave a review. It's good for business because the businesses can get reviews easier if you've just shop there. It's oh my gosh.
Yeah. The location data is big because that's also what they use to verify if their online ad actually resulted in you purchasing something at a later date. Because remember that this can tie into the fact that Google actually does have access to all the old credit card data as well. About 70% of all credit card data, Google and Facebook gets that data to test the effectiveness of their ads. That's something to keep in mind. Tech, we'll go with you. What's your do you have thoughts on this one or not yet?
I just have, in general, not on geofencing in particular, but just in general, this kind of like these general warrants. I mean, it's a pencil whipping kind of thing. It's not at all. The warrants are supposed to be served when there's a specific purpose. You know, we think Tom robbed a bank, therefore we want whatever geofencing or location data you have on Tom's cell phone.
But that's not the way the geofencing warrants work, though.
It's not. I'm talking about the warrant part of it.
Yeah, the geofencing works by saying, we're going to create a bracket around this location. I want every device that has come in and out of this location in this period of time. Right, that's what makes it so dangerous.
Right, but the general warrant part of it, though, that's I have more of an issue with that as terms of a law enforcement perspective.
Okay.
I mean, I like the geofencing thing. If you can't opt in or opt out, hang on, my dog is up under my feet.
Techlore
so for geofencing, do you opt into geofencing in some fashion, like contact tracing or whatever, or is it just always on blanket?
So in theory, it should just be, do you have location services enabled? But it has come out more recently that even if you've had it disabled, that information is still being tracked from a variety of sources.
Okay. All right, but yeah, so like my issue is more with the general warrant aspect of it. But yes, I get where I hope I understand where you're coming from, and I think y'all get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Right now, just to add, this is perfect context. This is a brand new phone out of the box with a stock Google ROM. Out of the box, it has Wi-Fi scanning, which is a feature that can be used to get your location. Obviously, location as well, which is on by default, and it's not just a GPS chip, but it's also triangulated with LTE as well as the Wi-Fi networks. And device maintenance, usage, and diagnostic data is on as well by default. So all of the three of these things could help, I guess, correlate somebody's location. And even though I guess the senator specifically talked about geofencing, there are other data points that are essential to the argument, which is why the warrantless requests are a concern to myself. Because location is what people kind of go, oh, wow, I'm being tracked all day. But there's a lot of other information that can still tie to where you're going throughout the day without needing the raw data, which I think is the big concern because there's no warrants behind this and this can be done on a mass scale.
Yep.
Right. Again,
I was just checking my phone to see what I have enabled and disabled because I usually turn all that stuff off. But I'm running Lineage and no Google services on it. Of course, it's not like I don't even have microGS on that. Just if it can't run like that, I'm not interested.
Yeah, but you're one of the only 2% that is able to actually put Lineage on their phone and use it.
Yeah, probably. But maybe maybe it's not that hard. Maybe we need to learn better how to do that. I don't know.
Have you looked at Graphene OS?
I have not. No, the EOS people have been hounding me for a while, and they're actually a little annoying at this point. But I am going to be installing EOS on a spare Nexus I have here soon. If nothing else, be like, please stop pestering me. I am actually interested. I've just been extraordinarily busy. And I have it downloaded. I have the phone prepped. Now I just need to sit down and do it.
My iPhone call quality is garbage.
Yeah.
And it's too late to take it back. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump over into Google 3, shall we?
Yep.
Warrants and get everybody's information anyway.
Mr. Pakai, in 2007, Google purchased Doubleclick, the leading provider of certain advertising tools. Is that correct?
That's correct, Congresswoman.
When Google proposed the merger, alarm bells were raised about the access to data Google would have, specifically the ability to connect a user's personal identity with their browsing activity. Google, however, committed to Congress and to the antitrust enforcers that the deal would not reduce user privacy. Google chief legal advisor testified before the Senate Antitrust Subcommittee that Google wouldn't be able to merge this data even if it wanted to, given contractual restrictions. But in June of 2016, Google went ahead and merged this data anyway, effectively destroying anonymity on the internet. Mr. Pakai, you became CEO of Google in 2015, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, and this change was made in 2016, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you for that. Did you sign off on this decision to combine the sets of data with that Google had told Congress would be kept separate?
Congresswoman, any changes we made,
Mr. Pakai, with all due respect, please, did you sign off on the decision or not?
I review at a high level all important decisions we make. We deeply care about privacy and security of our users.
So you signed off on the decision?
User consent for.
But they deeply
Okay, you
care.
signed off on the decision. Practically, this decision meant that your company would not combine would now combine, for example, all of my data on Google, my search history, my location from Google Maps, information from my emails from Gmail, as well as my personal identity with the record of almost all of the websites I visited. That is absolutely staggering. According to an email from a Doubleclick executive, that was exactly the type of reduction in user privacy that Google's founders had previously worried would lead to a backlash. And I quote, "They were unwavering on the policy due to philosophical reasons, which is Larry and Sergey's fundamentally not wanting users associated with a cross-site cookie. They were also worried about a privacy storm as well as damage to Google's brand." So in 2007, Google's founders feared making this change because they knew it would upset their users. But in 2016, Google didn't seem to care. Mr. Pakai, isn't it true that what changed between 2007 and 2016 is that Google gained enormous market power? So while Google had to care about user privacy in 2007, it no longer had to in 2016. Would you agree that what changed was Google gained enormous market power?
Congresswoman, this is an important issue. If I could explain. Well, we today make it very easy for users to be in control of their data. We have simplified their settings. They can turn ads personalization on or off. We have combined most of activity settings into 3 groupings. We remind users to go do a privacy checkup. 1 billion users have done so.
Okay, Mr. Pakai, thank you so much for that. I am concerned that Google's bait and switch with Doubleclick is part of a broader pattern where Google buys up companies for the purposes of surveilling Americans, and because of Google's dominance, users have no choice but to surrender. In 2019, Google made over 80% of its total revenue through selling of ad placement. Is that correct, Mr. Pakai? About
majority of
80%?
the business.
Yeah, okay. And because Google sells behavioral ads targeted to each of us as individuals, the more user data that Google collects, the more money Google can make. More user data means more money. Is that correct?
In general, that's not true. For example, when
More
you come in
user
search,
data,
when you type,
not the more
most
money
of the data
Google
we need is built into
collects?
the
I'm sorry, please. So you're saying that the more user data, it does not mean the more money that Google can collect?
Congresswoman, most of the data today we collect is to help users
Heck no, they
and
don't.
provide
Not to
personalized
me.
experiences back.
No.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Pakai. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
All right. So I want to, before we dive in and open up everyone else's comments, the one thing that I wanted to say about that is what they did with Doubleclick, and they're saying, well, no, we will never merge this together. Remember that Google right now is in the process of purchasing Fitbit, which I have been warning people for 5 years, even before I had a YouTube channel. Don't use a Fitbit, because their exit strategy is let's sell the company, and all that health data now belongs to somebody else. And the question is, what are they going to do with it? Now, when they're now doing this, now EU's like, hey, we can't be doing this. And Google's come down and said, oh, no, we won't ever use this. Well, that's the exact same thing they said about Doubleclick when they went down and bought Doubleclick. Now they're doing the exact same thing right here with Fitbit. This is a big thing. So if you own a Fitbit right now, I implore you, delete it, nuke the account, and send them a letter saying, I want all of my data deleted before Google gets their hands on any of this, because it is going to be used against you. Don't forget, Google's also trying to position itself in a huge health market, huge health insurance markets, and other things. That data is going to be your worst enemy, because how often are you actually getting up and exercising? Now they have a whole lot of data that most people get the Fitbit, thinks it's going to cause them to exercise, and now they sit at home still being the couch potato, but now there's a tech company record of them actually being a couch potato. That is going to hurt us in the long run.
Social credit score, we're going to be not access to things.
Yeah. So I want to go with tech first on this one, because that's the one he said he had a lot of information on. So Go ahead, Tech.
Well, I mean, first off, let's just the dithering by Sundar Pichai. We're not merging and collecting data. Just, I mean, like, are you listening to yourself? That's all Google does. That's their whole business model. Sorry about the dog drinking water, if you can hear that. How about Dimmings? She said that they were gaining enormous market power. So I was going to ask what our thoughts were on that. But obviously, I mean, Tom just kind of laid it out there, which I have been telling people, forever. Like, don't get hooked into, especially things like Fitbit and Google Health and stuff like that, who explicitly share their data. I mean, says the guy with the Apple Watch. I know, but theoretically, at least, Apple's not sharing that information. I mean, wow! You stop talking in lies. But it's while all these other companies, I mean, they explicitly say this is what we're doing. So it's yeah, I liked the Pichai floundering on the privacy settings offered to users and not addressing the Congresswoman's question at all. It was a very professional political response, I think.
Yeah, especially since there was a lot of evidence, and this goes back 5, maybe even 10 years ago with Facebook, when you, quote, deleted data, all it did is deleted you from seeing it. It didn't delete their data. Right. It just deleted you from seeing it.
Yeah, they just
How much do we
your
want to
read
get that
permissions,
Google
that's
keeps
all.
us? So let this be your maybe bi-weekly now reminder to go and watch the or the Selfish Ledger. Go watch the Selfish Ledger. So there's thoughts there. Mark, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Do you know how much crap I have said online when I'm mad or something? I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
I don't want a track record. I thought when I deleted it on my end, it was gone.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I have a never mind. I'm not gonna go there. But anyway, Techlore, what's your thoughts?
Dangerous, just dangerous business practices. They need to. How about not collecting this stuff at all? Like, where's your line? Where are people's line in the sand? I mean, are you just gonna take this abuse for the rest of your life and say, "Oh, okay, it's normal. Everybody does it"? It's ridiculous. This is. Wait for the social credit score. China is trying their best in cyber warfare right now to turn us into China.
Well, I mean, we already have social credit scores. They're just not as centralized like our government is. I actually have a lot of research on that I wanted to do a video on. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Dedicated video in the future coming. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Techlore.
I really don't have much more to add here. I'm pretty much in agreement here with what you have to say.
Dan, anything to add?
I want to put into perspective what this Fitbit and a buyout from Google would really mean. If you actually, if this actually is allowed to happen, the data that Google collects is sold to interests that want to sell you stuff, but they don't know what to charge you, or they're not got a price in mind for you. So let's say you want health insurance. They got your Fitbit data. Oh, this guy's a total couch potato. He doesn't exercise. He barely walks more than half a mile a week. So your health insurance, without you knowing about, it's going to be 3 times as much or more as the average healthy Fitbit guy has. And this applies across the whole board, your driving record, all kinds of collected data like that, your banking, how many times you go to the bank and how much money you take out and how much you put in. It's all collected, calculated for what they can sell you.
Those are all great points. One thing you said, it's already happening. So Tesla has the whole ecosystem at this point with their cars, and Tesla has their own insurance that's applicable to only California as of today. They have announced that they're working to try to get the data that's used for their driving habits to start influencing the insurance rates for Tesla insurance to help lower prices. It's already a reality that's happening.
Please.
And I've been telling people again for a long time, don't put that little box in your car from your insurance company. That is not your friend. They're not going to save you money. They're going to cost you money.
Most newer cars already have it in it. It's in there by default from the factory.
Yeah, which is problematic.
It's not just Tesla that does that. Pretty much every new car nowadays has all of the same tracking done. In fact, at least with Tesla, there's security behind it, which most other cars are currently lacking as of today. So at least it's only Tesla getting the information instead of anyone who wants the information with a little bit of effort. And the other layer to this as well is we think of this as buying out, but when businesses run out of business, this can happen as well. Radio Shack was the big example. When they were going out of business, they were trying to sell all their user data, including credit card numbers, social security numbers, and everything that was sensitive to their customers. And this was fully legal until Congress stepped in and decided that they would compromise by not selling, I believe, just the social security numbers and one other personally identifiable metric. But everything else was still being able to be sold.
Which with the social security number and one other identifiable metric, you just go over to Choice Point and buy the rest.
Yep.
Well,
and by the way, that applies to Amazon as well. If Amazon runs out of business, they have every right to sell all of their users' data. It's in their privacy policy, and you can read that right today.
Yeah.
Before Tesla actually came out and started doing this with everybody's data, actually General Motors introduced this particular technology. And they did it through the system called OnStar.
Yep.
Even though you didn't opt in for the emergency roadside assistance and stuff like that, the cars are still do send telemetry back to General Motors.
All right, so the next one is Amazon. In the interest of time, I think we're going to skip Amazon. We kind of did a news story on that recently. You know, Amazon's keeping an eye on third-party sales and things. But the problem with skipping Amazon, of course, is we got this picture here where we have a congresswoman morphing into Dr. Evil here. So, but anyway, next one is so the next one is Google number 4, and this is kind of applicable to what the change that they did in the Chromium base and push, of course, out to Chrome not too long ago, where it would, if you signed into any Google service, it would by default automatically sign you into Chrome. And then basically, in my opinion, that was just their way of collecting everything, and instead of storing it in a cookie, storing it in your Google account instead, which is really bad. But let's go ahead and hear what they have to say about this section.
This is the guy I was talking about earlier that was in the other hearing.
Did I go to the wrong spot?
Products and services. Mr. Pichai, I understand that
I
Google
think you're on
collects
Amazon.
User data.
I think
that's an issue with the video. It's the wrong
that's
it's
what
the
I
wrong
was saying.
graphic.
Google use that
my
data
bad.
for its own
I was thinking
purposes,
about criticizing the video. Then I remember Techlore's on. Okay. All right.
either in advertising or to
Google
develop
number
and
4.
refine its algorithm.
Yeah, it says Amazon here, but we're doing Google number 4. So it starts at 10 minutes and 34
I understand
seconds.
that Google collects user data on users' browsing activity through its Chrome browser. Does Google use that data for its own purposes, either in advertising or to develop and refine its algorithms?
Mr. Chairman, we do use data to improve our products and services for our users. Anytime we do it, we believe in giving users choice, control, and transparency. We make it very clear, and we give them simplified settings to choose how they like their data to use.
And so you do use the data that you get from these companies for your purposes.
My understanding was whether we use data in general to improve our products and services, and we do use data to show ads.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is he is absolutely full of bologna sandwiches right there, because if you remember, that rolled out very silently. And who was it? It was the open source Linux community who caught that, even before it got pushed itself into Chrome, because people started noticing, why did my Chromium browser logged into Google now? And it was the Linux community that came out and said, haha, look at what they're doing. They were not transparent about it. They were not open about it. They just changed the code silently so that everyone was automatically logged into a Google account in the browser. And so I'm going to lie. They're lying on that one. So, but anyway, Dan, do you have any thoughts on this initially?
Actually, they're collecting data and they're using it for their own purpose and other purposes for marketing and stuff like that. Yeah, it's all over the map. And it just falls in behind all the other stuff we've been talking about. That's really all I have to say on that section.
Yeah. Techlore.
I think it was a pretty straightforward section, and I think you can sum it up by just saying it's baloney. I don't have much more to add there.
Yeah.
It spoke for itself.
Pretty much. Mark. Tech. Mark stepped away.
I'm with Techlore and Dan. I mean, there's nothing to say. He's lying. He's lying. He's lying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know that we are all on the same page.
I was saying it was typical. That was it. I'm sorry.
There you are. All right. Let's go ahead and move into Facebook. We have Facebook 1. I think we're going to skip Google number 5. I did cover that on the news the other day. Google number 5 is talking about how they're putting their code inside of apps to measure the effectiveness of apps to decide which apps to steal. So their TikTok clone that's coming out surprisingly right about the same time that the government wants to ban TikTok, Google's launching a TikTok clone. I sense collusion, but
you don't say.
But let's go ahead and get onto the Facebooks, because I have to say 2020 has been such a weird year that I part of me wants to agree with the Schmuckerberg here on a couple of these. I think this section is really long, so I don't think we're gonna go through all of it here, but let's go ahead and at least start it and play a few minutes of it.
Marty,
Facebook
don't take
dominant,
don't take the
not just
time
in
machine to
social media
2020.
market, but also in its digital surveillance capabilities. In 2012, Facebook had several tools that allowed it to conduct digital surveillance, including trackers, Facebook's like button, Facebook login, and a series of application programming interfaces, or APIs. Mr. Zuckerberg, these tools provide Facebook with insights into its competitors' websites and apps. Isn't that correct? Yes or no?
Congressman, I think broadly the answer to what you're saying is yes.
Right.
We, every other company here, do market research to understand what people are finding valuable.
All right. Okay. So you're going beyond the scope of my question. I appreciate that answer, though. Mr. Zuckerberg, a few days before Facebook acquired Instagram, a Facebook vice president emailed you suggesting ways to improve Facebook's, quote, competitive research, end quote. By building a custom model, Facebook could improve its understanding of its competitors and, quote, make more bold decisions on whether they are friends or foes, end quote. Mr. Zuckerberg, how does Facebook improve its competitive research to distinguish friends from foe?
Congressman, I'm not sure exactly what he was referring to in that email there, but he is one of the people involved in running our analytics organization, and I think it's natural that he would, as part of his responsibility, be focused on market research and understanding more there.
And certainly, isn't it true that Facebook, after that conversation, purchased the web analytics company Onevo in 2013 to give Facebook more capability to monitor its competitors?
Congressman, I think you have the timing correct. After we purchased Onevo as part of our broader market research capacity.
And that would give you the capability to monitor your competitors, correct?
Congressman, it gave aggregate analytics as to what people were using and what people were finding valuable. Sort of like the type of product you would get from Nielsen or Comscore, some of these other third-party companies that provide similar data.
Well, Mr. Zuckerberg, that acquisition gave you non-public real-time data about engagement, usage, and how much time people spend on apps.
All right, I think that's good enough there to see where we're going. Anyone want to specifically jump in on this one first?
He's a professional stooge.
So now there's some discussion about him being a lizard man. He is not a lizard man. I am a lizard person. Okay, he is not one of us. He's a Russian.
He's
bot,
trying
okay?
to say he's got to purchase these other companies and stuff like that so he can find out which ones are friends and which ones are foes. Mm-hmm. You know,
the ones that are friends are the ones he makes money off of. Period.
Yeah, let me remind everybody before all this come down, in past decades and even a century, we did our shopping from a catalog. We didn't need to be analyzed and analytic and all that junk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, one of his alien commanders said to him, "Don't drink water this time, Leroy. You almost gave away the whole planetary takeover operation."
He actually drank water in the very, very beginning, and someone got a funny picture of it. It was the same thing. It was like, did we just watch the first Facebook one about Anavo? Or was that the second?
Yes. Yeah, that was we watched the first half of it there. Yeah.
Okay, so for context, Anavo was a free VPN they offered a long time ago. They offered it as a privacy and security tool. It was not offered as a research tool, which they are now calling it. And of course, as you know, most strictly free VPNs are something you should avoid. There are freemium versions that can be okay. But in general, I mean, everyone was saying like, oh my gosh, Facebook made a VPN. And it was kind of a meme, right? Like, go use a Facebook VPN if you want to be anonymous on the internet. It was a meme. And so it's kind of crazy seeing this actually talked about in Congress now, because a previous meme in our community has now made its way all the way to Congress. Something that was just a joke because Facebook cared about your privacy through this VPN, when it was really just a tool to track you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'll remind you, like, a VPN was originally designed to connect your remote station securely to your base station. That's what its purpose was. So by using a VPN, that final terminating computer has the potential to see everything you're doing. That's why it's very important to watch your VPNs. And take a look at Techlore's channel for reviews on various VPNs. You actually test them all, by the way. Oh, by the way, I did put Sierra on that Mac, by the way. We'll have to talk about that. But anyway. So anyone else want to jump in? Go ahead, Tech.
I just like that Zuckerberg pushed back on Mr. Johnson by saying, "I'm not sure that's the right characterization." Like, doesn't make him right. I'm not saying he's right. I just like the political jousting where he was like, no. Like, this time he pushed back on it.
We were collecting kids' data, not everybody's.
He's there so often now he feels he's got to correct them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he does look a little creepy.
The two things they said, when I'm sure you've already seen it if you've got through the first hour. They continually start with the same thing, which is, wow, thank you. What a great question. What a wonderful question. We're really glad you asked that question. And it got to the point where the chairman actually stopped the whole hearing and he said, okay, guys. And this is more or less what he said. He was pretty strict about it. He said, okay, guys, we understand your gratitude for our questions, but let's just assume all of our questions are going to be great and let's stop complimenting them, okay?
Assume they're all going to be great. What a line.
Yeah, that might be the exact line. If not, it was one word off. It was like very much like unpolitically correct thing to say, because I think everyone was just kind of done with the kissing up.
Oh, they were.
Great.
They were.
It was. Questions are great.
It was so much kissing up, man. It was a preteen late night smooch fest. That's all it was. It's like spin the bottle at the execs. Oh man. Anything else to say on Facebook Part 1? We're gonna skip Google 5 and jump into Facebook Part 2. Because I think this is the kind of the saucy one that we want to get into. Any other comment on Facebook Part 1?
Carry on.
All right. So here's Facebook Part 2, and this one here could cause a little bit of debate. So let's see what's going on here.
Resource usage of applications.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zuckerberg. In 2004, there were dozens
I'm
of
kind of
social
watching
media
these live on
companies.
another browser,
Facebook
so they're in
distinguished
sync with
itself
you.
from the competitors by focusing specifically on privacy. You had a short, clear privacy policy. It was just 950 words. It made a promise to users, and I quote, "We do not and will not use cookies to collect private information from any user." And you said, "will not." That's a commitment about the future, and that was 2004. Mr. Zuckerberg, today, does Facebook use cookies to collect private information on users?
Congresswoman, my understanding to that is no. We're not using cookies to collect private information about people who use our services, and I believe we've upheld that commitment.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, do you think that your company would be as successful if it had started with today's cookies policy in place?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but in general, cookies is not a big part of how we're collecting information. We've primarily used them to make sure that someone can stay logged in on web. We use them to some degree for security, to make sure that you don't have someone trying to log in under a lot of different accounts for one computer or something like that.
So, Mr. Zuckerberg, once again, you do not use cookies.
Congresswoman, just to make
Yes
sure
or
I'm
no?
clear, we do use cookies.
Yes or no?
We do use cookies.
Okay.
Yes, we do use cookies.
Okay, so Mr. Zuckerberg, the bottom line here is that you broke a commitment to your users. And who can say if you may or may not do that again in the future? The reality is that Facebook's market power grew and Facebook sacrificed its users' policy.
Today we had the
Okay, so that one there, the congresswoman has no idea what she's talking about. I echo what Mitchell just said.
She worked
doesn't know
him
what she's
right
talking about.
in full circle.
Well, here's the thing. Now, Techlore, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do not think Facebook actually uses cookies to track users. They use fake tracking pixels to track users. And so according to the letter of their policy, they have upheld that because this congresswoman thinks that a cookie intrinsically tracks you across the internet and a cookie does not intrinsically track you across the internet. A cookie can track you across the internet. Is that correct, Techlore?
That's exactly correct.
Yes.
Zuckerberg kind of got screwed over there, in fairness to him, because she got him to admit that they use cookies, and she trapped him in the corner by saying, okay, so you've broken your promise to uphold.
That's what I meant by full circle. She set him up.
Yeah. Okay. Got you.
Yeah. So I have to agree with Zuckerberg there. 2020's doing this weird stuff to me.
Yeah, I was going to go and say my issue with this is this false moralizing that she's doing, and this is why I hate politicians. But, when you say something like, they will not, it's like, they don't say will not ever. It's on the end user. If Facebook changes their policy, and this comes to the person who deleted his Facebook page because he doesn't like Facebook's policies, if you continue to use their service, you do agree to be tracked by them in some way as long as you're on their site. Now, I don't like when Facebook Analytics is used on, like if I go to a different website, if I go to Amazon and there's Facebook Analytics, this is why I use NoScript and I block the Facebook Analytics on Amazon because I don't agree to any of Facebook's services. That's why I turn on Google tracking while I'm on YouTube or Google Hangouts, but those are the only Google services I use. So everywhere else I go, I block Google's scripts from running with NoScript.
In fact, I don't use Google anywhere except on this computer and on this computer. No other computer uses Google for that reason. Now, Techlore, let me ask you this because this is a question from Abdul or a comment from Abdul that I could try into this. So the Facebook cookie keeps you logged into Facebook while you browse the net. With their Facebook tracking pixel, could that tie in the site you visit to Facebook because you're still logged in? What's your thoughts on that?
So, as far as I know, there hasn't been any solid research that actually proves that Facebook is able to do those things.
Okay.
That's as far as I know. I could be wrong, and I would definitely double check that. But as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been actually real evidence to show that the cookie is an instrumental tool to tie different accounts or profiles together. One thing that Facebook could definitely do, which doesn't require a cookie, is so let's say you have a hardened Firefox, you have NoScript, you do all this crazy stuff. You have a very unique browser fingerprint at that point. Even though it does, in general, improve your privacy and security on the internet, you still have a very unique fingerprint that Facebook could analyze. If you logged into a browser that doesn't have any cookies onto Facebook and you still have a similar fingerprint, the cookies are irrelevant. It's theoretically possible for Facebook to be able to tell that two users who logged in from a similar IP address with the same browser fingerprint is likely the same user. Even if they didn't log in, they just accessed the Facebook homepage, which in my opinion is a much bigger concern because you don't have to have a Facebook account for them to track you.
Correct. Now, if I'm not mistaken, does not modern Facebook have a means to block fingerprint tracking? I'm sorry, modern Firefox to block fingerprint tracking.
No.
I
So
thought
so there are ways to improve it, but the reality is the more you change in the settings for your browser, the more unique it's going to be in relation to everything else.
Yeah.
There is actually an argument to be made that a stock Chrome browser is better for privacy and security in some contexts. Some contexts, right? Like I'm not going to recommend everybody downloads Chrome, but this is the whole basis of the Tor browser. Tor makes everybody look exactly the same so that there's very little fingerprinting that's possible between users.
So hear that, people. If you're using Tor, do not change anything on the Tor browser. That's critical.
Yeah. Well, this whole fingerprinting browsers is exactly why Apple, they switched on all of these privacy protections, and then they realized that people were getting fingerprinted in the Safari browser really easily, so they turned them back off. And they said it up front. They said, hey, look, we're turning all this off because it's allowing our users to be tracked even more uniquely than they were before. So there's absolutely an argument for it.
Yes, and Safari, by the way, is I know that it's closed source. I know that it's not necessarily the best recommendation to make, but at the end of the day, it has lots of out-of-the-box privacy and security protections without as many of the fingerprinting concerns that Firefox might have. And the same deal goes with Brave. Safari and Brave are very similar in that context of being out-of-the-box, very similar between users.
Absolutely.
I understand that cookies are used for making sure you're logged in, checking that it's even to the degree of making sure the device is trusted, like an Apple Mail. When you log into Apple, it'll alert you on the phone. I've had this with a client, and she's very worried. It's coming from a place that's not here, but it's close enough by, due to Spectrum's network being a mesh network and the way it's layered on top of each other and distributed to houses, it may show up in a different area as the IP address. However, I've checked on it and everything. I do feel like outside of just the basics of making sure you're logged in, the computer's trusted, maybe I give room for just a little bit of market research as like how your site is being used. That's kind of where I draw my hard line in the sand. And session replay is an issue. And I'm guessing you're getting into that with more of the tracking pixels. The session replay really bothers me because it can actually track sites that you visited outside of that website, sites that you're coming from. And
session replay doesn't do that. Session replay is a script that loads on a site that measures how you interact with the site, even if you do not technically interact with the site. So if there's a form on there, they can track where your mouse hovers over the site. They can track if you type something in, even if you decide to retract it and not send anything in. That's what session replay does.
So I have read privacy policies where companies I've done business with in the past say, now I don't know if that's something they're looking to do in the future, and they have it in the privacy policy preemptively, but it does mention that links you come from and links you go to, links you're coming into the site from their site, the company site you're doing business with, and links you leave out to. I guess that's while still logged in. I don't know that they're currently doing that or capable of doing that at this point.
Well, I mean, that's
in their privacy policy.
That's the thing that's about tracking people across the web with cookies. That's the thing that this Congress ladies talk about, but that Facebook doesn't actually do. A lot of companies do it, but Facebook actually doesn't. What Facebook uses is a tracking pixel. This is actually an older technology than the cookies in many ways. The tracking pixel is a 1 pixel. It's a 1 pixel transparent ping file that loads when you load the site. But what it does is it can measure the IP address anytime something is tracked. So the thing about using a tracking pixel is Facebook does know your IP address. At least they suspect to know your IP address. And then every site that loads the Facebook pixel, Facebook's going to get a ping from the IP address because it's downloading that tracking pixel. And that's what the tracking is doing. But it's not a cookie. So Zuckerberg is right. It's not a cookie. It's a tracking pixel. So yes, they can still track you across the internet, but they're not doing it with cookies.
You know,
I just want to say, I'm sorry, Techlore.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say I abhor the session replay. It's too much of it.
Yes.
I would put limits on the session replay. Like you can, I don't know. I can't think of an example right now. When it gets down to the fine details of hovering the mouse over and monitoring clicks, that's way too far. I would draw the line somewhere before, right at the threshold of session replay. And that's something that I've got to look into further. I'm looking at going with a company called Patriot Accounting. They do accounting software instead of doing QuickBooks and syncing it to my Invoice ASAP and just doing everything through Patriot.
Yeah. All right, Techlore?
Something that's interesting so the whole purpose of the hearing was for mostly monopoly accusations, right? So we're kind of looking into the pricing surveillance scheme of things, but the main chunk of the whole hearing was about monopolies and how they're using their power to stop smaller businesses from succeeding. Something that's interesting that ties into all of this is who handles all of the analytics on the internet that almost every website utilizes. You have Google, Facebook, and I think Twitter has analytics. I want to say Amazon has analytics as well. All the analytics performed on every single website on the internet is almost always tied to one of these major tech companies. And this wasn't brought up at all in the hearing. They talked a lot about first-party tracking, but not about every site that utilizes their third-party analytics, which they likely get that information as well.
Yeah.
And it can be utilized to improve their products.
Yes.
Yeah. So like I'm working on assembling the publishing company as we're really working with a plan right now with somebody to actually really develop what we're doing with the publishing company. And part of this decision is what services are we going to use? Like, am I going to use Google Analytics? Or am I going to use one of the open source ones? Do we want to run Google Ads to try and make some money? Or should we go with alternatives? Do I need to tie Google into this somehow to check Google Search Console and make sure Google's not downranking my site? These are hard questions that tie directly into the purpose of this meeting, that if I don't play their game, I could simply disappear if we don't do it right. Of course, part of our big plan is to use alt text, so we might have a way around it anyway, but these are all things we're thinking about right now. And so with that, that is the important part about this meeting. And yeah, it's like 20 minutes out of 6 hours. That's what
we need to bring back the mentality in this country to where if you don't like the bridge you're on, build a new one. Do something and don't be a pansy.
Yeah.
Stand up for what you believe in and build stuff, do stuff again.
Absolutely.
America's got to get back to that. Let's get off the couches. Let's get
out. The problem with that is if you really go out and do that, all of a sudden you become the problem.
Yeah, if you do it wrong. I mean, there's a way to do it right, I think. But, or just rally behind the alternatives. That's why we're using, like, instead of Trello, we're tracking things with Canboard. Instead of using, I don't know, whatever the current calendar thing is, we're using Easy Appointments, which makes a little bit more work for me, but it's not bad. It's not a bad amount of work. Of course, Easy Appointments would sync with a Google Calendar, but I ain't using that. I'm using a Nextcloud one instead. So, we'll get it figured out. And that's kind of the part of it. But we're trying to put the business together with only open. Give us your final thoughts. And my apologies to everybody that we usually try and get through the comments and stuff. We didn't get to it today, but we're already way over time. And a lot of good information, and hopefully it was very helpful. But we'll be back to comments later. So Dan, go ahead, give us your final thoughts.
In closing, I hope that this particular hearing is not some dog and pony show, just, as I brought up before, and something good for the people comes out of it. And that these big companies, if they're too big, I hope somehow that they actually break them up or do something like that and keep them broke up. With that said, let's move on to the next person.
Techlore.
You're muted.
Techlore, are you on? No, you're muted, yeah.
Either way, I didn't say anything. There was it was a tricky thing to watch, to be honest. I really do have high hopes for what it's going to lead to. But at the end of the day, you can't rely on what's going to be the outcome of this. So I do encourage everybody watching to assume the worst and hope for the best. And when you assume the worst, what's that mean, right? It means looking at what you use day to day, thinking about who controls that. You don't need to make changes every day,
Amen.
right? I don't think that making changes overnight and telling people to stop using Facebook today is necessarily the solution to this, but just to make them think about it. If people think about it, I think we will get a lot of people to really think, like, do I need to use Facebook? I can use Signal and I can still communicate with everybody I know.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to use Google for one specific thing, like running a YouTube channel. But you can still live a pretty private life while maintaining a side business that utilizes something else. So trying to find side channels, work with the fact that we live in kind of a shitty situation. And let's not act like it's super.
Absolutely. And guys, if you're not subscribed to Techlore's channel, he has a huge channel over there. I've linked it there in the comments. Go subscribe to him. Check out the incognito course that he has going on over there. It is just really good for taking all these steps in series. So go check that out on his
It'll
channel.
be done. It'll be done soon. I can promise.
You've had a lot of busy things going on in the background too. So
it will be done very soon. So just keep an eye out on that.
Absolutely.
Very wise
Mark,
words,
final words? Mark, you're up. Final words?
I've already said my final word.
You did. Okay. Tech, go ahead. Your final words.
Well, I mean, as the former Apple employee and sometimes accused of being the Apple, and his opening monologue saying, I loved this so much. Tim Cook said, "We're not a leader in any product category in which we compete, and this is a wonderful political play at minimizing Apple's importance." When he just said, not 10 seconds before, we work to make the best products. So just thank you, Tim. I mean, have a little spine, please. You did when I worked there.
You know something else Tim Cook said that I almost spit out my water? He said they asked about applications and about third-party applications and if alternative.
The best thing Apple could do is say, hey, we don't recommend it, but we'll let you install sideload apps. I get why they don't, but that would get me to use an Apple device. If I could just sideload
install a snap package.
I just want Tim to own it, that's all.
All right. Of course, I will be over on my other channel tonight in about 45 minutes. We are wrapping up chapter 4 of the book of 1 Peter. So if you are interested in the Christianese type stuff, we'll see you over there in about 45 minutes. If not, we'll just see you tomorrow for the weekly news roundup, where I will grab a bunch of news and rant and rave like a crazy lunatic. And it'll always be fun, of course. So we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate you doing this tonight, man.
Absolutely. No problem, man.
Yep. Thanks, Tom.
And also, thanks to Techlore for letting us borrow his whole video and go through it line for line. So,
no, it's all good. It's public domain. I don't even think I didn't even monetize it because I don't think you can monetize
collaboration, baby. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I still recommend if you get the time, watch the whole thing because there's a lot of great info there, and there's also 2 fights that break out. Mr. Jordan, I forgot when the other one happened, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I didn't see the second one yet, but I thought he was making some decent points, and I missed exactly what caused the whole blow up. Was he like, I don't know if he was just
he interrupted. Yeah, he interrupted during someone else's time, which is a pretty bad thing to do, especially with COVID-19, because you're only allowed to have a mask off if you're the person speaking. Yeah. That's why it was such a big deal.
Yeah, well, if you're the only one spewing the germs, you don't have to have the mask.
That's right.
Contact tracing. I can't.
Yeah, he is contact tracing. That's right. They will not know where you are at any point in time. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for the weekly news roundup.